It's D-U-E-U tell. I see you by this point, you're reading my mind. It's time for football. We about to keep this thing moving. I'm about it, you're with it, let's do it. We gon' make this thing official, you heard me? If you're the best, then let's prove it. The goal is set to have a team become a unit, man. We about to keep this thing moving. I'm about it, you're with it, let's do it. We gon' make this thing official, you heard me? If you're the best, then let's prove it. The goal is set to have a team become a unit, yeah.
Gameplan's NFL All-32 show. I am Emery Hunt, the czar of the playbook here on Game Plus Network. Thank you guys for joining us here on a Thursday night as we get ready for the NFL Divisional Playoff round. We have 4 outstanding matchups once again. What a great Super Wildcard weekend we had last weekend. It just sets the table for what should be a fantastic a slate of games here in the NFL playoffs. But first, be sure to follow me on all of my social media accounts. That's Twitter at FBall Gameplan, Football Gameplan, all one word on Instagram, and at youtube.com/Football Gameplan is where you can find the Football Gameplan Network. I'm also on iTunes. Just search Football Gameplan. We're going to start a podcast soon, man, but we have some older podcasts, some great content that you should go check out, but lock it in there because we definitely will open up some more podcasts here in the near future. And we're going to do some great things today. We're going to break down the AFC matchups first. And let's start with a big one here between the Cincinnati Bengals and the Tennessee Titans. And when you look at this matchup, firstly, you want to start with Cincinnati. We talked about this last weekend. What they have is what a lot of teams try to accomplish in the draft. When you draft a young quarterback, Joe Burrow, you want to draft other talented players around him, in which they have done. T. Higgins, Jamar Chase, the rookie who should win Rookie of the Year, Offensive Rookie of the Year at least, and also Tyler Boyd. So they had a lot of pieces in place. You also have Joe Mixon, whom they drafted as well. So these are all homegrown talents for the Bengals. Their offensive line is still a work in progress. They played better as the season went on. They still have room to grow there, and that's why you attack that this offseason, whether it's with draft picks or free agency. And on the defense side of football, we talked about what they were able to do in the draft at the second level and also in free agency from building out that roster up front and also on the back end. So they've done a great job in creating this football team that we're witnessing right here in this playoffs. Now, you hope that they're going to get their outstanding edge rusher back and Trey Hendrickson, who was knocked out of last week's game with a concussion. If he can come back, that's going to be huge. Now, they're going to be without Larry Ogunjobi, the defensive lineman on the inside, for the rest of the playoffs because of an injury. So here's the thing. When you look at their offense and how they were able to march down the field against the Raiders, and their defense made a game-changing play in the end. Jermaine Pratt with a game-sealing interception on the goal line, no less, to knock off the Raiders. Their defense is getting, I would say, gaining more confidence as they look forward to taking on the Tennessee Titans. And let's move over to Tennessee. When you look at the Titans and what they do well, we always talk about running the football. Guess who will be back this weekend for Tennessee? Derrick Henry. Now, he was able to get some contact. Teron Davenport, who works for ESPN, spoke about the practices that they were trying to put him through, getting him ready for contact and getting ready to play the game. But the good part is, if you're a Tennessee fan, that this team will still able to run the football very well without Derrick Henry. So they got great complementary guys behind Henry. We saw Deonta Foreman do a great job in his absence running the football, keeping some pressure off Ryan Tannehill. The defense is being able to dominate up front. Jeffrey Simmons has been outstanding. And the fact that that secondary has been opportunistic. So this is a really good football team that the Bengals will face here in this divisional round in Tennessee. How healthy will Derrick Henry be? That'll be the biggest question. How many carries will they give him? Me personally, coming off that that foot injury, I wouldn't want to give him so much carries, especially since you've had a stable run game without him. But the biggest question in this game for me will be whether or not Ryan Tannehill can make key plays if that run game is stopped. I don't think he can. I think the Bengals have something special here. So I'm going with Cincinnati to get the win over Tennessee in the road and moving on to the AFC Championship game. Now, the next game on the AFC slate, which probably could be the de facto AFC title game because both of these teams are just playing some great football. That's Buffalo and Kansas City. The Bills are traveling to KC to take on this Chiefs football team. And what a great emphatic victory they got last weekend against New England. They set the tone from start to finish, scored touchdowns on all of their drives in that ball game. They did it with the run game. They did it with Josh Allen throwing the football. Their defense was dominant. They got after Mac Jones and company. Probably the best performance we've seen from the Bills in the last 3 seasons. This was just a dominated performance considering who the opponent was against, who the coach was on the opposite side, and when this game was played, which was in the playoffs. So Buffalo is playing its best football and coming off of a confident win going into Kansas City has to bode well for their chances. You look at this Bills offense. If Josh Allen, while he didn't play his best game, he still played dynamic enough to where you're looking at him right on par with Kansas City's Patrick Mahomes, because quiet as kept, both guys play the same game stylistically. They can get outside the pocket, they can extend plays, and we know they have that technical arm strength. They can go from touchdown to check down. From end zone to end zone in a heartbeat. So I'm excited to see this matchup here. And they're facing a Chiefs team that is playing some of its best ball as well. We talk about how teams are playing as they get into the playoffs or going in. Kansas City is playing very good defense. They did a great job shutting down the Pittsburgh Steelers last weekend. Granted, it was an older, weak Pittsburgh Steelers offense, but that defense of Kansas City didn't let up, and they kept those guys sputtering all throughout the game. Offensively, we know they're running the football very well, capable run game, but the passing game is starting to find those chunk plays. And we know once they get inside the red zone, the playbook is entirely open. They do a great job of creating mismatches and finding opportunities to sneak one past you. So this will be a fantastic matchup. We've seen these two teams play before, and I think it's going to be a back and forth affair. If I had to pick which game out of the 4 we're going to talk about today that will go into overtime, I think this will be the one that'll go into overtime because of how evenly matched I feel like both teams are. But I will go with Kansas City. I think their ability to play significantly well on offense, consistently. They have multiple targets. It's hard to defend those or cover those guys. So I would say Kansas City by 3 against the Buffalo Bills, who will be game in this matchup. This is one fantastic game. I'm excited to see this one play itself out. So we'll step aside, take a quick commercial break, and on the other side of the break, we're going to go back inside the lab, Hunt's playbook, and talk about the double eagle flex defense, a versatile defense that allows you to get pressure. It's an 8-man front defense, but we go into archives and find some players that would have been perfect fits in this defense, just to give you a better illustration of why this is one of my favorite defenses in football. So we'll be back after this quick break and come back on the other side with more football game plans, NFL All-32.
Welcome to another edition of Inside the Lab, Hunt's Playbook. I'm Emery Hunt, the czar of the playbook, and today we're going to break down the double eagle flex defense. Now, I'm a big fan of the double eagle flex defense. One, it's a multiple 8-man front defense, which already puts you in position to be able to stop the run, but it's very good against the pass. Passing coverages are easily disguised, and you can get multiple in your coverages as well, despite being an 8-man front. You have to remember, this defense was originally created to slow down the passing offenses of the CFL, and we know how much they love to pass the football over there. And it's also a 4-level defense, when most defenses are 3-level, D-line, linebackers, and secondary, and it's very good versus the option. So whether you coach in high school or college, where you see mostly option attacks, you're very good against that with the 8-man front defense, the double eagle flex defense. So let's go inside the lab even deeper to look at the positions that are involved in the double eagle flex defense.
Here are the responsibilities of the strong side defensive end. He's going to line up in a 7 technique, which is the inside shade of the tight end. He's also responsible for the C gap and has to be able to beat the tight end's block. If he can do that, he'll have some success. And the most ideal strong side defensive end in this defense would be Julius Peppers of the Chicago Bears, a guy that has the size, athleticism to get sacks from the front side, but also has the strength to beat blocks one-on-one. Your strong side defensive tackle will line up in a 3 technique, which is the outside shade of the guard. He'll also have B gap responsibility, and he has to be able to showcase quickness and burst. His first step has to be outstanding, and the ideal strong side defensive tackle that would fit in this defense would be a guy like Geno Atkins that plays for the Cincinnati Bengals. The nose tackle in the double eagle flex defense will line up as the zero technique that's over the center and is responsible for the A gap. And you want him to play both A gaps on either side of the center and has to showcase great strength and great hands. And a guy like Haloti Ngata showcases all of the skill sets necessary to play the ideal nose tackle in the double eagle flex defense. The weak side defensive end will line up in a 7 technique and is responsible for the C gap and also the backside runs. So he's going to have to keep contained, and he will be the best pass rusher on your defensive line. And when you look at a model for this type of defense, look at the way DeMarcus Ware plays. I think he would be an ideal fit or a candidate that you would look for in this type of defense. Now, they refer to this position as the strong safety, but you could also look at it as your Sam backer. He's going to line up in an 8 technique that's outside shoulder of the tight end and 3 yards behind the strong side defensive end, responsible for the D gap, and should be a mix between a linebacker and a defensive back. So I look at a guy like Chad Greenway as an example of the type of player you will want to fill this position. The rover position should be a guy that's a mix between a defensive back and a linebacker, so he has to be a great run defender but also have the ability to get out there and be able to cover maybe slot wide receivers or tight ends. So I look at a guy maybe like a Troy Polamalu that would be an ideal rover in this type of defense. The blood backer, as they call it in this defense, will be the best pure linebacker on your squad, and he's aligned 5 yards off the ball and slightly inside the offensive tackle. You want a guy to play like an inside linebacker in a 4-3 defensive middle linebacker. London Fletcher fits the mold. He doesn't make any false steps and is always around the football, active in the run game, and also can drop back in pass coverage. The whip in this defense plays an interesting role. He's a combination of a defensive lineman and a linebacker. He's going to be lined in a 3 technique, but not on the line of scrimmage, responsible for the B gap, and he's going to be asked to stunt heavily. So they utilize him to create a lot of pressure on the quarterback. So you look at a guy that can be versatile enough to do that. I think Justin Tuck will be the ideal candidate. When you look at what he does for the Giants, sometimes he kicks down inside, would be what you want at this position on this defense. Your field corner should be the best corner on the team, a guy that should function well without safety help, has every attribute that you look for, plays with great technique, has all the physical attributes, and I think that's a guy like Darrelle Revis. He can do his own thing on the island, and that's what you want out of your field corner. Now, on the opposite side, I think the boundary corner will be the better tackler out of the 2 cornerbacks and should excel in jamming the wide receiver because that's essential to funneling to the free safety. Charles Hillman fits that to a T, a guy that also has great instincts that can come away with interceptions and force turnovers. That's what you want out your boundary corner. The free safety in this defense will be aligned 8 to 12 yards deep and will cheat toward the wide side of the football field if the ball is on the hash. Now, he has to have great range from sideline to sideline and will pursue the ball from inside out. I think Ed Reed would be an ideal candidate. He can play in any defense, but you want a guy that has the ability to eliminate mistakes, can jump passes, and be an ideal person to come away with interceptions.
One type of coverage you can utilize in the double eagle flex defense is cover 1, and we want to teach the cornerbacks to funnel guys inside to the free safety, and it depends on the hash and also the formation. You see right here, we're going to be lined up on the right hash. Matter of fact, let me draw the hash mark for you guys. So the right hash, and we're going to use pro set 2 backs. So with this formation, you know you're going to leave one guy on an island, and that's your field corner. So you're going to rely on him to hold his own versus this wide receiver. So that's why he takes the inside shoulder position so he can get a good jam and ride this guy's inside so that way he can be in position to make a play on the ball. Now what you want your strong side backer to get a good bump on the outside shoulder of that tight end to funnel this guy inside toward the help, which is the free safety. We have the boundary corner who has the ability to, who has the advantage of having the sideline as his friend. We want him to get super aggressive. He's closer to the line of scrimmage, get a pretty good jam to try to funnel his guy inside so that way if the ball goes here, the free safety is in position to make a play on the receiver or on the ball. but you do rely on your field corner to hold his own versus that wide receiver on the wide side of the field. And that's just one example. Now let's show you what it looks like if the offense comes out in a spread formation and how you can still be in position to make a play on the ball. Now the offense has come out in a spread set, which is 4 wides, which could either be 2 wide receivers, 2 tight ends, or 4 wide receivers, however they want to utilize their packages. The question still lies, how can we funnel help to our free safety? Here's what we're going to do. You see, we backed off both cornerbacks, your boundary corner and your field corner. Now we have the boundary corner still realizing the sideline is his friend. We're still in the middle of the field now. He's going to take the inside shoulder, so we're relying on him to be the island guy as well. Man up on the outside wide receiver, force him to the outside where you have your help. We have the field cornerback taking the inside shoulder of the receiver as well. Again, on that island, backing off, forcing these guys to the sideline where you can stay on the inside and be in better position to take away the pass or come away with the interception. All we've done is walked out our Rover and our Sam. Both guys are covered over the slot. Their job, again, get aggressive bumps on the outside shoulder to force these guys to your help. Cross and face, force these guys to the help to where the free safety can be in position to make a play on the ball. So you see, that's how, sorry, put an extra tight end right there, but that's how we are able to funnel guys to the free safety. We're going to rely on both corners to take an inside shoulder to force those guys to the sideline. That way the free safety doesn't have to worry about getting over top. He can focus on the inside guys because the Rover and the Sam, strong safety, whatever you want to call them, will funnel guys inside to him. So what if the offense comes out in a twin set? Let's go back deeper inside the lap to see how we could be in better position to make a play. And finally, the offense has come out in a twin set, which means 2 wide receivers to one side with the tight end on the backside. How can we funnel the help to the free safety? Easy. We have the free safety aligned mostly over to where the help is needed, and that's on the side, the twin side. So you see we have the boundary corner taking, again, the outside shoulder. He's going to get aggressive and try to force the guy inside to his help. Sam is going to get that outside shoulder and is going to beat that outside shoulder up to try to force that tight end over to his help. Now the free safety is in great position to make a play on the ball. And like we said before, we always depend on one guy to be on an island. That's your field corner right here. It's going to take the inside shoulder. It's going to get a good bump. And as he always does, will ride this guy outside because, again, the sideline is your friend. And this was based off the right hash mark, so let's draw the hash there. So that's your hash mark. Free safety is in position to make a play on the ball, or the person, the tight end, and also the slot wide receiver. As a boundary corner, will ride that guy's outside, and we're going to ask the field corner to get a bump on the inside shoulder and ride the inside body of the wide receiver using the sideline as your friend. So as you can see, it's all about getting aggressive at the line of scrimmage with your Sam backer and your cornerbacks, funneling help to your free safety so that way he can make a play on either the ball or make a knockout hit on the receiver.
Welcome back to Football Game Plan's NFL All-32 show. Emory Hunt, the czar of the playbook. Thank you guys for always joining us here on the Game Plus Network. And now we move on to the NFC. And in the NFC, we have 2 dynamic matchups once again. And we'll start with the Los Angeles Rams as they will travel to Tampa to take on the Buccaneers. Now, this is a good game because it's one, if you're a Rams fan, you've seen this one play out before. This is one of the landmark victories that Matthew Stafford was able to get earlier in the season when they beat the Bucs out there in LA. Now, we know playoff Tampa Bay and Tom Brady are different animals, right? But it has to bode well for the psyche of a Matt Stafford and his Rams team that's now better because now they have an OBJ. They didn't have OBJ at the time. And so that's going to hold these guys down offensively. And on the defense side of football, we know what they bring to the table. I love the fact that Von Miller is starting to find his way within his defense and getting pressure on the quarterback. We know what Aaron Donald can do, and we love that the fact that the defense should be a little bit healthier in the secondary. They didn't need those guys that they were missing at safety in that game against Arizona. That front 7 really dominated the Cardinals, so it didn't really come down to whether or not those safeties were exposed. But they hope to have some guys back healthy in this game, and if they don't, that could be a potential problem. But I do feel like offensively, with the way their run game is going, with the way Matt Stafford was playing efficient last weekend against the Cardinals, he played a great game from an efficiency standpoint. He didn't force anything. He got the football out quickly, got it to where it needed to be, and didn't have that costly mistake. And if he can continue to do that, this team can continue to move on. But when you talk about moving on, you got to beat the bully on the block, the reigning Super Bowl champion. That's the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. And we saw, offensively speaking, from the Bucs last week against Philadelphia, it doesn't matter. No AB, no Chris Godwin, no Fournette, no Ronald Jones. Offense was still the offense. They still found ways to be productive. Guys just stepped up and really answered the call. And that's all you want from a veteran football team. So this is a team that has been there. They've done that. They've bought the T-shirt. The offense looked like it looked in week one with all those stars out there on the field. And that's a great thing moving forward. It bodes well, for Tampa Bay. Now, the defensive side of the football, they stepped up and stopped the run, because that was the biggest issue. I thought that was going to be a problem going into that game against Philadelphia, because Philly was going to come in, try to run the football, shrink the ball game. But we saw Tampa really bow up and stop the run and force Philly into many third and long situations, which is always an advantage for the defense. In this game, it's about stopping the run and being key to what's going on in terms of the motion behind it, because we know they love to run it outside zone, come back on the other side of it with a naked bootleg and dump their football off to either Cooper Kupp or someone that's wide open, or you get caught watching all this movement up front with a run game and you get caught looking, and next thing you know, Odell Beckham Jr. is slipping right behind you on a deep dig route, or it's Cooper Kupp, or it's Van Jefferson. So it's about eye discipline more so than anything in this ball game, in my opinion. And I think that's going to be something we're going to have to keep an eye on for Tampa Bay's defense. But I do like Brady and company to get the win at home. I just feel like what we saw last week against Philadelphia from a defensive perspective should help them against the Rams in terms of stopping the run and making this a Matthew Stafford versus Tom Brady game. That's a game that the Bucs shall win. Finally, we look at San Francisco traveling to Green Bay, and I feel like these teams always play in the playoffs in the last 5 years. And so when you look at San Francisco, dominating performance against the Cowboys, and I say dominating because they almost let it slip away. They had to really collapse to let Dallas back in that game. They were in control of that football game because of their run game, because of one guy in particular, Deebo Samuel. As long as he's out there on the field, he's going to give these guys a chance to win. He can run it. He can catch it. We're going to see him throw it at some point in time as well in this playoffs, and I'm pretty sure he can do that as well. So the offensive line helped out their run game. They really controlled the tempo and the pace for the Cowboys. Jimmy Garoppolo has to be a little bit better at protecting the football and hitting the plays that are there to be hit. Case in point, the wide open pass that he missed to Brandon Ayuk, he has to complete that against a team like Green Bay. When you talk about the Packers, they're coming off that bye. They were the number one seed in the NFC, so they're well rested. Can they hit the ground running and set the tone defensively? Because San Francisco will try to make this game a track meet. And to me, that's something that doesn't favor Green Bay. The defense will have to stop the run. They'll have to be better there and make this, just like in the other matchup, Jimmy Garoppolo versus Aaron Rodgers game. But on offense, it's about just finding success in terms of hitting your playmakers. That's one thing Dallas didn't do. They didn't get the football to CeeDee Lamb or Amari Cooper if they were wide open with that off coverage. Green Bay won't do that. They'll find ways to get the football to Devontae Adams or whoever is wide open by themselves. And we know they can run the football. So I feel like this is a Dallas Cowboys-like team, but with better execution and less penalties and less dysfunction. So with that being the backdrop, I do see the Green Bay Packers being the better version of what we saw last week from the Dallas Cowboys and knocking out San Francisco. So I like the Packers and the Bucs to move on to the NFC Championship game next weekend. So that's it for this episode. We're tapped out. Appreciate you guys always checking us out here on a Thursday night, 6:30 p.m. East time on Game Plus Network. I'm Emery Hunt, the czar of the playbook. Be sure to follow me on all of my social media accounts, and we will see you guys next week in the championship game, both AFC and NFC championships.
It's D-U-E, you tell I see you by this point, you're reading my mind. It's time for football. We about to keep this thing moving. I'm about it, you're with it, let's do it. We gon' make this thing official, you heard me? If you're the best, then let's prove it. The goal is set to have a team become a unit, man. We about to keep this thing moving. I'm about it, you're with it, let's do it. We gon' make this thing official, you heard me? If you're the best, then let's prove it. The goal is set to have a team become a unit, yeah.